Last year, I reported that we're well over 1.3 billion, which tells you really one thing is that the private sector believes that Broken Arrow is a good investment, where most people are very linear and they start with the beginning and then they go forward. I look at things as that this is what I envision, and then I start working backwards to look at how we will get there. They have a right to have those opinions, so you have to understand that's a part of this business in a free society that we live in, especially in a community like Broken Arrow, where folks will definitely let you know what they think about how you're doing. Having those conversations, sometimes they're fierce conversations, and one of the most important tenets of leadership for me is accountability. If the city doesn't do something right, as a city manager, I take that responsibility on my shoulders, because that's what the city manager and a good leader is supposed to do.
Very well said.
Just gives me a chance to reflect on my career and what I like about, this position, and what I continue to like after almost 38 years.
Yeah, you've been in your position a while.
I've been the city manager of Broken Arrow. It'll be 10 years this September.
Why that role?
I've actually been in public administration for 37 years this past March. And Broken Arrow is my fifth city that I've served as the public administrator, city manager,
That's right.
and during my career.
Yeah.
So all but one of those has been as a city manager, city administrator. And my first year was in the area of planning and zoning. So great questions.
Well, I'm glad you think so. Do you have black shoes on?
No, I have.
Dang, okay. Because we're almost Twinkies.
Yeah.
Like their pants look nearly the same.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So 35 years in this sort of role.
Yeah.
So you had some other roles previously to working at Broken Arrow. How'd you get into Broken Arrow? And then kind of connect the dots between that and I assume some point in high school or college, right? So what does that timeline or that history look like? What was that path like, and how'd you explore all that?
Well, I was a city manager in Miami, Oklahoma from February of 1998 until December of 2007, just really about 1 month short of 10 years. And in late 2003, the job for city manager in Broken Arrow came open, and I applied for the position and went through the interview process and actually finished second. And to me, it was one of the jobs that I'd coveted, basically because of the growth potential, the location to my home. I grew up in Tulsa until I was in almost ninth grade. My father was a Tulsa firefighter for over 30 years. My mother worked for the Tulsa Police Department. And so when I took the position in Miami, I really got a chance to come back to Oklahoma, because I was currently working in a municipality or township in New Jersey. And so I applied for that position in, I said 2003, early 2004, and I finished second. And really, it came down to me and one of the gentlemen named Jim Twombly, who got the position, and the council members at the time and the mayor were just so nice about my candidacy and said some really good things about my potential to serve in this position. Obviously, a little disappointed, but looking back on it, it was the best thing that ever happened, because considering everything that was going on at the city at the time and looking at my experience, I quickly realized that there was some I guess sharpening of steel or iron that I needed in order to be able to manage a city that large size. So fast forward to a couple of years, I was blessed to serve as the city administrator in St. Charles, Missouri, which happens to be one of the largest cities or suburbs outside of St. Louis, Missouri. And that's where I actually picked up the experience that I really needed, that I did not have when I first interviewed for the Broken Arrow job. And then I was blessed in 2015, at the beginning of the year, they started the process. And a couple of the council members who were around in 2004 were also still on the council in 2015 who remembered my candidacy. And so I was able to demonstrate to them that I was the best person for the position, but I really needed that additional experience to be able to manage a fast-growing community like Broken Arrow. So
isn't it funny how the universe or life will put you into second third or last, or anywhere in between, so then you can learn how to like sharpen your skill sets, and in order to move to that kind of next level that you thought you were ready for. But for some reason, there's some sort of force. I was like, yeah, not yet. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had to reflect upon exactly why I didn't get this position. And so for the next couple of years before I left Miami, I watched, as I had been before, what was going on in Broken Arrow and the challenges they were facing as one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Oklahoma. And it quickly became clear that there were experiences that I didn't particularly have at the time, and it really related to managing the growth of a community, having experience in managing a large capital improvement program, which is very demanding and very challenging. And like I said, I was blessed to apply for the position in St. Charles, Missouri. And St. Charles is a very fast-growing, well-established city in St. Charles County, right to the west, just as you go over the Missouri River into Missouri from St. Louis. And I was able to pick up a lot of those experiences. And so it didn't take me very long to realize that it was a blessing that I didn't get that position. And sometimes that's a way God puts in your path where you need to take a detour in order to where you ultimately want to be. And so for me, Broken Arrow was one of just a handful of communities in the entire country that I want to be a part of, because the number one, the quality of the people in Oklahoma. Number two, the potential that it offers a city manager in terms of actually managing a large organization.
Safety is a big one too.
It is.
Man. So I remember Broken Arrow. We moved growing up 2000, and I graduated in 2012 from Broken Arrow. Mm-hmm. So I remember 12 years, 91st and Aspen kind of area, 101st and Elm. I remember what's now the New Orleans Square developed to where it is now. And I remember the St. Benedict's Church.
Yes.
That got put up over there. There used to be a bread store right next to it that we used to ride our bikes to and go get bread and stuff and come back. And grew up in that neighborhood and loved the whole area. And remember when the Rose District came along? That was a thing. Like Main Street was like a small town Main Street. You know, it was almost like it was nothing. None of it was really well paved. It didn't really have much of an evening life. Not a bunch of restaurants and stuff. And so I loved how it's like now really favored the community, bring the families together. There's like activities throughout the year that I know that are put on by is it the Chamber? Right? The Chamber does like 7, I think, a year. And then there's lots of other organizations and companies that'll come and use that space as well. You know, like Shamrock, right?
Yes.
So that's cool.
Well, one of the tenets or goals of the council is they want to, even though we're growing and obviously a fast-growing city in the state of Oklahoma and the southwest part of the country, is to maintain that small-town feel. And one of the ways you do it is by placemaking. That's the official term. I call it gatherings and special events. And by the more special events or gatherings you have, when you have the opportunity to bring your community together, whether it is for a Shamrock, which is put on, by the Mayor Wimpy and her incredible organization that she's a part of, Soldier's Wish, to the Fiesta de Mayo event the city actually coordinates. To the Chambers, it's as simple as their Taste of Summer, Rooster Days, the Homecoming Parade, the Rotary Club's grills, and the event they have. I'm drawing a blank right now. Event they have in October where they actually bring a lot of the old historic type cars, classic cars actually, the Christmas parade. I mean, you start naming off all of these events, Scott Fest. What it does is it gives the community an opportunity to come together and gather. Our Christmas traditions are basically Christmas in Broken Arrow is what we officially call it. When I first got here in 2015, I bet you there wasn't 500 people that were there that night that we actually turned the lights on. A couple of years ago, we were well over 10 to 15,000 based on the estimates that we have from the app that we use that collects the number of cell phones that were in the area. It very much is. So, and it continues to grow. Well, we continue to grow the event. At one point, it was just in the Rose District Plaza. Now our Christmas in Broken Arrow runs all the way from the Rose District Plaza up to the Brio. So you have the things that are happening on the north end and the south end. So in order to maintain a small town feel, I believe one of the most important components is having the opportunities for people to gather, and I think we're really good at that.
So there's a strategy to it.
There is.
To putting on the events and having a place for people to gather and stuff. It's not just, I don't know, willy-nilly.
No, it's
there's a terminology to it.
Well, there is a coordination and there is a specific intent. It's very planned out. I mean, number one is the chamber has their events. The city has their events. The city has a special events team that is a division within the community development department that works with all of the entities that want to bring events. Our Keep Broken Arrow Beautiful and our Arts 302, or the Arts Council in our community, they have an event, the Chalk It Up event, that happens up, for example, usually in late September, early October. So all these entities that actually want to do events, we coordinate with them, try to make sure there's no overlapping of dates when they would like to hold their events. And it is very intentional to where there's something happening, and it usually kicks off with Shamrock. If you look at the timing of when that happens, it usually kicks off with about Shamrock, and then it runs normally all the way through to the Christmas parade. I mean, the city now, we have a Veterans Day parade that we started several years ago working with the local Elks Lodge, and so we support that, and that is now with the Veterans Parade. That's something we hadn't always had, well, now we do. And so we try to make sure there's something going on essentially every single month, whether it is with the chamber, whether it is the private sector or the city, to bring people essentially together to be able to have fellowship, to support the businesses. That's extremely important. There's a lot of people that have brick and mortar businesses and investments in the Rose District as well as other areas. New Orleans Square, I just wanted to mention that one is we wanted to honor the 4th of July and the birthday of our amazing country. Unfortunately, Rama, they stopped their fireworks, as you may remember growing up here for years. They did that, and we had a void right there. And so the council came up with the idea of having an event at New Orleans Square, so we call it the Block Party. So this will be the 5th year.
That's where the correlation is on that.
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering where the Block Party came from, because it's slowly kind of getting the ball rolling over the last few years. About 3 years ago?
This actually will be, I believe, the 5th year.
5th year.
4th or 5th year. I believe it's 5th year that we've actually been hosting this, and it was done as a result of the unfortunate determination or decision that Raymond made, because if you think about it growing up here, and I remember coming over as well when I was a small young person, that they had the fireworks, and it would bring thousands of people out to watch the fireworks. Well, they made the business decision not to do it anymore. One year we tried doing it out at the events park. It wasn't very well attended, and so as a part of the revitalization of New Orleans Square, the council said, hey, let's host an event here. And so we call it the New Orleans Square Block Party. And so it's the first year, I believe, was just one night, and we've gone to multiple nights. Actually, we had 3 nights in 1 year. This year, once again, it'll be 2 years, so where we'll have music that'll come. We'll have basically places for people to eat, have something to drink if they choose, and then we'll top it off with fireworks on both Friday and Saturday, respectively.
Cool. So there's a lot of correlation to it. So we're talking about strategy.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about how there's some similarities in your organizational structure to what's similar in business as well. So president, mayor, and then chief operating officer, general manager, or are you thinking more of like a retail store to where you have I don't know, the president and then GM, or are you more like a GM, or are you more like a president? How do you correlate that in an organizational structure to where you've also got some other team members, because you have some level of HR structure, right?
Sure. So we operate under what is known as a statutory council city manager form of government. And so I call it the old Schoolhouse Rock cartoon that we used to watch on Saturday mornings when I was younger, and probably a lot of people that are watching or listening can remember, it talked about the 3 branches of government. And so you have the legislative branch, which at the federal level, that's your Senate and your Congress. That is your legislative branch. Well, in the local council management form of government, the city council serves as a legislative body. And then you have the executive branch, which at the federal level is the president. And in our case, in this form of government, the city manager serves as the chief executive officer for the community. And then you have the judicial branch, which is municipal court. And so my position as city manager would be very similar to the chief operating officer of a corporation or a large business, where you would have a board of directors that actually the chief executive officer, CEO, would answer to. In this case, the city council under our form of government only has 2 employees. They have the city manager and they have the municipal judge. And then, as you mentioned, with regard to the hierarchy or organizational structure, the city manager hires everyone else. So all of the department directors, regardless of what their title is, whether you have titles such as chief of police, fire chief, parks and recreation, they're all department directors, because each one of those are the departments. And so it's the responsibility of the city manager to hire each one of those directors to run those specific departments. And then those directors oversee the operations of those departments for the city manager. That's our form of government. There's different form of governments. For example, Tulsa's form of government is they have a strong mayor form of government, which means their mayor is directly elected by the people and is actually the CEO of the Tulsa organization. And then he has staff members underneath him as a part of his leadership team. Council still serves as a legislative body, but it's much different. Here, our council, number one, they're elected on staggered 4-year terms. And then every 2 years, they select one of their own. Of the 5, they select one of their own to serve as mayor for a 2-year term.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm also, speaking of fascinating, fascinating with your role too. So and that helps me put it a little bit more into perspective of like where you're at in the organizational structure. You have a lot of responsibility. So you're managing people, hiring, firing.
Yes, I'm responsible.
Budgets.
Actually, no one in the organization can be terminated unless I approve it.
Okay. Budgets and inventory?
Yes.
What else?
Actually, on my city role as city manager, I'm responsible for the entire day-to-day operations of the municipality. Budgetary-wise, we presented to the public hearing last night at the city council meeting our budget for FY 2026, which is the rest of 2026 through June 30th of next year, was right around $455 million. And so I put the budget together, submit it to the council. Now, I don't do it all by myself. I've got a finance director who has an amazing team that actually puts all the information together based on the decisions that my position makes in presenting the budget. And other than hiring the city manager, many of the council members will tell you their second most important, or equally 1A or 1B, however you would choose to call it, is approving the city budget. Mm-hmm. And once they approve that budget, just like the legislature, then it becomes the executive branch's responsibility to manage. And so, yes, it is a large responsibility. The city has just over 1,000 full and part-time employees in our organization, are out there providing great service to our citizens.
And growing.
We are.
Quickly.
We are growing, and as you know, just about 2 weeks ago, in fact, it may be 2 weeks ago today, U.S. News World and Report, which is a very reputable news agency, ranked Broken Arrow as the #1 city in Oklahoma and the 12th city in America to live in, based on a number of different criteria. And so that is an incredible accomplishment that says a lot about the quality of the service we're providing, but more important, the quality of the citizens and the businesses that have chosen to call Broken Arrow home.
Do you think that the city of Broken Arrow is kind of operated like a business?
I do, in certain respects. I mean, you can't operate the city the exact way that you would a private business, because if you think about it, in a private business, say manufacturing, for example, you may be making a widget. Some type of product. Well, if the demand for that product goes up, then you would add additional line or additional employees to complete that the demands for that actually widget that you're making. In the role of government, you're here to provide services. So you take the revenues that you receive from the citizens and businesses. In this case, sales tax is our largest revenue, and you actually take the revenue from sales tax, from utility revenues for utility services, franchise fees, and all the other revenues, and you actually turn that revenue into a service. And so my belief is that you should run the city business-like and use best business practices when it comes to being effective and efficient in how you spend the tax dollars. But there is a difference because we're taking those dollars when citizens spend money and the sales tax is generated, or when they pay their utility bills, they also pay the franchise fees. If they use any of the city services, there's a cost associated with it. We take those, we turn that into a service to maintain the great quality of life that we have in the community.
Is there anything that you're doing in particular that is a part of your job or day-to-day things that you do that gets you really excited to show up and deliver and perform, or like, to communicate about? Or is there any particular project like that that's recently getting you fired up?
Well, I think overall, I would like to mention that what gets me excited today is the same thing that got me excited 37 years ago. And it really comes down to getting things done. And I had an incredible mentor when I first started in this business, when I really didn't know whether to come here or go sick 'em. And in terms of understanding what my responsibilities were as a municipal official, trying to learn to be a servant leader. But in the end, I was taught really just three basic things. Number one is that you need to communicate very well, communicate, even over-communicate to your citizens and businesses of what's going on. Secondly, be efficient with the dollars that you receive and provide the best service you can with the funds available. And third, get things done. Because in the end, that's what the public expects. They pay their taxes through sales tax. The citizens in Oklahoma, none of their property taxes go to pay for city operations, and that's something a lot of people don't understand. Is by state constitution, any of the money they pay in property taxes to the city only goes to pay back general obligation bonds that they have approved. So we're living off of sales tax primarily. But in the end, I believe the citizens deserve to receive something for the revenue that is generated for the taxes they do pay. And so to me, it's always about getting things done. So I still get excited when I look and see the projects and I see a road that's completed, or I see a senior citizen annex that was completed a couple years ago, when we find out last night when Kim Crenshaw, who is the executive director, reports that the membership at the senior center now has gone over 3,200, and we have almost 600 seniors that use the facility on a daily basis. So I have this heartfelt moment when I start to think about the fact that we're actually getting things done for our citizens. Some of the other things that I really enjoy doing is have the opportunity to talk to citizens about how they think we're doing. To me, you have to understand, and when you're a city official, any public official, you do have to have leather skin, because we live in the greatest country in the world, which means people have a right to their opinion. And so there's going to be criticisms that come regardless of who you are or how good of a job that you're doing. People are going to sometimes take pot shots or going to criticize you, whether it's on social media or it's at a council meeting.
Or in person.
Or in person, exactly. Brendan, they will come and tell you that they may not agree with something you're doing. And you have to understand that they have a right to have those opinions. So you have to understand that's a part of this business in a free society that we live in, especially in a community like Broken Arrow, where folks will definitely let you know what they think about how you're doing, both positively and as well as where you can do better. And so having those conversations, sometimes they're fierce conversations. Sometimes they're not real pleasant. I mean, it's not left on me that every now and then that I have to apologize for something that we didn't do well. And one of the most important tenets of leadership for me is accountability and taking responsibility. If the city doesn't do something right, as a city manager, I take that responsibility on my shoulders, because that's what the city manager and a good leader is supposed to do.
Very well said. I can appreciate good communication and efficient communication and transparency. I think especially like in your role in a governmental standpoint, where people are contributing with their taxes, their tax dollars in some way, shape, or form, they don't really know what really happens on the back end. They don't see the services that they're getting, I don't think, the way they would buying a widget, right? So if I went and took my $20, bought a widget for $20, cool, I understand what I bought. Sometimes I wonder if the general public contributes with their tax dollars, and then they're like, what am I getting out of it? And I think a lot of governmental organizations have a difficult time communicating that. Like,
yes.
This is what you're contributing, and this is what we're giving back. And kind of showing also where the dollars make sense. Pun, right?
Yeah.
So, which is one of the things that when I was at state, of the city that you presented, and there were some budgets with pictures and some words that I think generally anyone who read that and looked at that could understand. Oh, this is where our budget is as a city, and this is where the dollars are going, and here's how this is shifted. The data points and everything I think are great. Do you agree that you think that like that's a difficult thing to try to communicate with the general public and try to get everyone on the same page to understand like what's going on and where we're going? Or
it's always a challenge. I mean, my entire career, if you think about, and you're in the business of media and marketing, and so just think about the transition in the last 40 years we've made with how we communicate with people, in this case specifically with residents and businesses. Back when I first started, everything was either face-to-face or paper. People got their weekly or their daily newspaper, and that's where they gathered. We had a newsletter that went out on the utility bills. We put something out every quarter that was in paper. We had council meetings. We had public forums. Those were your two main forms of communication. Well, we've evolved. We started evolving in the early 2000s with email communications, to where all of a sudden we had letters, memos. We had the ability to do emails. We didn't have a lot of ability to do email blasts. But what I've been very successful at and really prided myself on was making sure that our communications with the citizen evolved with the way people are receiving their information. And today, the majority of the people it's shown receive their information electronically, by way of social media, by electronically. However, we still have a lot of people alive in Broken Arrow that are part of the greatest generation. And basically their children. My mother is 82 years old. She follows every single thing that goes on in Broken Arrow. And so I make sure that we have communications not only to address simply for those folks that are just in social media, for example.
More technologically savvy.
Yes. We still have paper. We still send out paper utility bills. We still send out paper communications in the utility bills. We still do other documents because not everybody is adept to the technology as others. And with regard to communications, you were talking about the state of the city. I mentioned our annual Thrive edition, which we started. Sometimes I lose time, either in 2016 or 2017. We've been putting out an annual edition, and it's called the Thrive, basically mean money in, money out. That document every year, if you take 15 minutes and you review that document and you look at where we receive the money and where it's spent, plus all the projects we're working on, you'll be well informed. And I will tell you, from my perspective, not just because I'm the city manager. I mean, I've got some incredible people like Aaron McCulloch in communications, our communications director, Jennifer Rush, our economic development director, and her team. Our whole team, the police department, fire department, is we pride ourselves on providing information about what's going on in Broken Arrow. And I would put our size community and what we communicate and how transparent we are about what's happening up against any other community in the entire state, in this country, in terms of information we provide with videos, electronic, basically distribution of emails on what happened at the council meeting, podcasts with council members about highlights from the city council meeting. We have the man on the street or the woman on the street type videos where we go out and we talk to staff about this project or that project. And so I really believe if you're paying any level of attention to what's happening, you'll know what's going on in Broken Arrow, and I'm
Absolutely.
very proud of that.
Yeah, I love that too, and that goes back to like a core trait or a core practice.
Yes.
Communication and transparency, which has been a big issue in governmental organizations across the nation. Is like they either don't communicate at all, and that was actually one of the frustrations that me and Big Ray were talking about. Is like how like there's a lot of people in that space that they either refuse to, don't know how to, or can't. It's like if you're put into that role, you have a skill set, you've earned it. Okay, I need to understand where things are going forward, how things are changing, how they're adapting and stuff too. So business too, going a little bit to the next step of business and how it's such an integral spot in communities. How does Broken Arrow support small business, or is there any activities that you're working on that help the infrastructure of small businesses and be able to like attract that to Broken Arrow?
Well, I've always believed, one of my tenets that my mentor taught me back in 1988 and 89 when it came to economic development, the city's number one responsibility, and I've held this tenet, is to create an environment that promotes private investment. because the city can't be the one that creates all the jobs. I mean, we have 1,000 employees that basically are in existence to provide services. But the reality is, if you want to have a growing, thriving economy, community, great place to live, work, and raise a family, it's got to be done by the private sector. And the city does that by creating an environment that promotes that private investment. For example, when I first got here in 2015, the assessed value of the community was right around $750 million. Last year, I reported that we're well over $1.3 billion. So we're close to actually doubling the value of the community in just about 10 years, which tells you really one thing is that the private sector believes that Broken Arrow is a good investment. And you as a businessman understand you're only going to be involved in business, one, because it's a self-actualization, you believe strongly in it, and you're not really in it to make money, or secondly, there's a return on your investment. And I've always learned that if you can create an opportunity for businesses to get a return on their investment, whether that is people going through the turnstiles and coming in and buying something, or having a restaurant, or basically some place for people to come and do entertainment, and people keep coming back, people are going to get a return on their investment. And so that's number one, is that making it to where you can do that. Well, how do you do that? Number one is you make sure that when there's the approval process, getting planning board approvals, city council approvals, plan reviews, that is done effectively, efficiently, and expeditiously, because time is money. So we have one of the best community development departments in the entire state of Oklahoma in terms of how quickly we review plans and we turn them around. Secondly is we have a very supportive of city council, and we have going all the way back to when we did the partnership, the public-private partnership. We call it a triple P with Bass Pro. That building where Bass Pro is operated out of, the city owns that building. We own that land. And so
Really?
that was a risk on our part. Broken Arrow has always
I remember when that was built. It was a big deal.
2004. 2004 it was open. The city purchased the land.
I mean, I was
built
like,
the building.
yeah, hi.
Yes. It continues to be one of the main economic drivers within our city. And so basically you need a supportive council. You need a supportive of staff to help them find, whether it's the Small Business Administration, working with our Economic Development Corporation, with Amber Miller, for example, to point them in the directions where the resources are. And in some cases, the city does partner with the private sector with actually the waiver of permit fees, providing some type of capital money where we believe we're going to get a return on sales tax based on the number of jobs you're going to create. And so we have a whole menu of things that we actually do for all businesses, from the very large business to the very startups. I mean, there is a limit to what we can do to help get you started, and then it's really up to you to market your facility and to have a product or a service that people want and will continue to want to keep them coming back.
Yep. And there's a new park that's being developed somewhere in South Broken Arrow.
Yes.
What's that?
It's called Elam Park. And I'm super excited you brought this up. I was hoping you were going to talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that are happening. And so the city basically swapped land with the school district many years ago, right after I started, actually around 2015, 2016. And it's on Florence between Aspen and Olive. It's right next to the school that's right there, the elementary school that is there. And
It's kind of near that Creek Turnpike area, right?
It is,
kind
exactly.
Of give a map look. Okay.
It actually, and what's really interesting is it's right across the street from our new Arrow Forge Innovation District, okay? Yep. So I can tell you, we got some exciting things happen. First thing we did was we created a plan. So the council commissioned citizens, city council, and staff to come up with a master plan for Elam Park. So Elam Park right now, we've got our adaptive, all-inclusive playground regarding any of your inabilities or physical handicaps to be able to actually get on the equipment. That's not going to be a problem here. It's incredible. You go out there on a weekend, you can't find a place to park. There's so many people, and that's just the beginning, because we could be asking voters next year for a new community center to be located there. That way, if they approve that community center, you could have Elam in the southwest part of the city, you could have Central in the middle, and you could have Nienhaus in the north. Yep. And so that's what does get me exciting, because our folks in the southwest basically have said repeatedly, as well as the entire community, they would be supportive of a community center in Elam Park.
I've heard that Broken Arrow is about half landlocked, or maybe the other half, whatever that terminology be, please correct me a little bit.
Sure.
But there's still plenty of land to be developed.
Absolutely.
So there's some other cities around the country that they're out of space. They can't go out. They have to go up.
No, we're truly blessed. The fact that we still have a great deal of property in the southwest part of our city, and we have a tremendous amount of land available in the east part of the community, predominantly in Wagner County. And so that requires us to be very forward-thinking about, the four corners of engineering, which include your sanitary sewer, your delivery of water, your stormwater, and your streets and roads. And so in terms of where we are growth-wise, we are about halfway in terms of total build-out within our city limits. And then there's also land that's within our fence line that could be annexed into the city at some point. And here's what's interesting, too, is that there are a lot of homeowners here now that live in unincorporated Wagner County but have a Broken Arrow address. And from all the estimates that I've been able to gather, there's about 25,000 residents that live in unincorporated Wagner County but have a Broken Arrow address. So if you add the approximately 120,000 population right now, that's the estimate, to another 25,000, we're really closer to 150 in terms of total population. And what's interesting is, I think by 2060, and that's further down the road, but we're planning for it with our water and our sewer and so forth, is you could actually see Broken Arrow's population within the corporate limits. You could see that well over 200,000. And then if you look at the unincorporated areas that are going to continue to grow, even though right now you could only do approximately, in some areas, 2 homes per acre, you could see that population be in the 30 or 40,000 around 2060. So the total population of Broken Arrow by 2060 could be somewhere probably incorporated and unincorporated between 230 and 250,000.
So that'll be right about double. Yeah.
It could, yeah, and that's what we're planning for. We're trying to make sure that we provide the very best services that we can afford today with the dollars we receive, but also looking to the future, because people have a right to sell their property, and there's a lot of property that's available. We have a comprehensive plan and a new zoning plan that talks about what you can do on your property. And Broken Arrow is right now, it's being recognized, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the best cities to live in America, not just Oklahoma. There were 6 cities in Oklahoma that made that list of 250,000, and Broken Arrow was the first in Oklahoma. It says a lot about the other great communities in our state, but to be number 1 in Oklahoma and also to be 12th out of, there's over 19,000 cities in America, I understand. I mean, it's truly a blessing, and I'm beyond humbled that we were recognized to that degree.
There's 2 more things
Sure.
I think that are happening really big in Broken Arrow. The Amphitheater.
Yes.
And possibly a 4-year university.
Yes. I was going to mention those today. What gets me excited, I'll start with NSU. Okay, but NSU has been a labor of love since the early 90s. In fact, people like Jim Beavers, for example, who was around at the time, Dr. Clarence Oliver, who actually saw the vision to go work with the university. There are many, many others. But I want to mention and give them a shout out specifically because we've had so many conversations about it. They had the foresight to actually, for the voters of Broken Arrow, to approve a temporary tax to help generate the revenue to build a good portion of what is there today. And then Tulsa County voters actually turned around in the early 2000s as a part of Vision 2025 initiative and approved funds. And it's in Wagner County, but they wrote the language in such a way that whenever Tulsa County voters approved the Vision 2025, they approved additional funds for improvements on the campus. And so the intention is all along has been for it to be a 4-year university. And with the passage of 701 that was sponsored by Senator John Hayes and new state Senator Christy Gillespie, who, as you know, was a council member and serving as vice mayor, it passed the Senate just about 2 weeks ago, a little less than 2 weeks ago, actually, to where now NSU can approach and apply to the State Board of Regents to be able to offer what they call the 1,000 and 2,000 freshman and sophomore classes there on the Broken Arrow campus. And there's certain restrictions about not duplicating programs and so forth. So there's a lot of thought that's going to be put in by President Hanley and his great leadership team. But what it's going to do for Broken Arrow, and this is what's exciting, is that I believe at some point hopefully in the near future, you could see dormitories out there. Obviously, I'm sure they're going to be looking at their options. That's something they'll present to the State Board of Regents. And they'll be looking at how they can grow their campus. There's about 110 acres to the north on site right there. The city gave them the land back in the 90s to build the campus. And so I think you're going to start seeing some growth there, shortly in the next few years if Dr. Hanley and the folks at NSU and the Russo, the Regional University System of Oklahoma, make their application to the State Board of Regents. And what's that going to do for Broken Arrow? Obviously, I believe there is an educational, economic development, and a sentimental value. Educational is now you're going to have kids that are graduating from Broken Arrow have the choice to be able to stay in Broken Arrow to get their 4-year education in the community that they graduated from. How is that good economically? Well, it's been proven that over 70% of the kids, when they graduate, they stay in the vicinity of where they graduated from. The sentimental part is that a lot of times kids have to leave Oklahoma because they go to school somewhere else. Well, all of a sudden now, mom and dad, when their kids get married and the grandkids are living 5 hours away, now they have an opportunity to actually stay in the Tulsa metropolitan area.
Yep. And then, did you want to touch base on the amphitheater?
I do. But I can tell you, it's. I could talk all day about NSU.
Oh yeah.
And I was truly blessed. I will say is the governor appointed me to the Tulsa Community College Board of Regents, and I was confirmed by the Senate last month. And so now I get to be a part of that amazing organization, which has the third largest enrollment in the state of Oklahoma. And so we have Superintendent Chuck Perry that's on the Russo board, and then I've been blessed to be appointed to the Board of Regents to TCC. So I'm going to make sure that that organization continues to flourish. And if there's opportunities, I know right now they work very well together. A lot of the kids in the Achieves program through TCC take classes at NSU. And so I think there's going to be a lot of synergy and opportunities for partnerships. With regard to the amphitheater, it's basically, probably a driver and a five wood, basically a 5-iron, I should say, from the NSU campus, just right on the other side of the Creek Turnpike. And so the city's going to be finished with all of its infrastructure work because, Brandon, whenever the council, they gave me direction about what they wanted, it was very clear. They wanted the venue to be a great experience from the time you got there until the time you left. And we've all been to venues where sometimes you avoid going there unless it's really, really an act you want to see or an artist because of how difficult it is to get in or how difficult it is to get out. And so Notes Live, Bob Mudd, who's amazing to work with the organization, J.W. Roth, the owner of the company, they said their goal is to have a venue that when the concert over and you get to your car, you are in and out within less than 45 minutes. And so you're talking a 12,500-seat amphitheater that I anticipate they're going to be holding their first concert probably sometime in the spring or to early summer of next year. They did some.
Quick.
It is. They did some revisions. We were hoping they would be open last fall, but they've done some revisions to the venue, mainly with their steel package in terms of the amount of cover they're going to have, the type of seats. They're now going to have sound walls to be able to actually use for part of the artists to be able to show light shows and have videos and so forth. And so they've done an amazing job. They learned a lot from their venue in Colorado Springs. And so they made some adjustments. You should start to see them going vertical sometime in July. And then basically it's just a matter of time before we're basically watching concerts in East Broken Arrow.
I'm so excited. They're going to have some good concerts out there.
I think it is. I mean, they're talking about 45 to 60 concerts a year, which I think is a great number. They're actually going to be using technology to expand the season. At first, it was just going to be from about April to the end of October. They think they can offer concerts in basically earlier in the year and later in the year based on heated seats, about 5,000 heated seats, the covered area. They've also got some technology that reduces the ambient temperature of the venue to make it much more comfortable for basically July and early August concerts here in Oklahoma, which obviously can be a challenge. But I think it's going to create tremendous amount of growth and prosperity. I believe you'll start to see economic development-wise the properties around NSU because of the growth and potential growth in the campus and specifically with the amphitheater, you'll start to see those properties around there start to develop, maybe starting with a convenience store, possibly a restaurant or two, maybe even a hotel. So actually, I think everyone is just waiting to make sure that it's actually going to happen, which you'll be able to see evidence of that very, very soon. There's already a lot of work that's been done, but there's a lot more to be done. But next year is going to be exciting when we start kicking off concerts.
Do you ever struggle to vision?
Do I ever struggle to vision?
To look, because you're telling me 35 years out that there's some ideas, and I know you're not doing it all by yourself, but with you in your role as basically a CEO, you got to have some sort of vision, right?
Well, you have to have a balance between operations and vision. And, for me, help the governing body vision is one of the city manager's responsibility. And no, I don't do it all myself. We have an incredible community development team led by Rocky Hinkle as the director. I mentioned Jennifer Rush, our economic development director, finance director, communications team, Charlie Bright, director of engineering and construction. We have continuous collaborations about how we're doing today and where we want to be based on the growth that we're anticipating. Right now, we're growing about 1.5% to 2% per year. And so I do spend a lot of time thinking about the future because I think it's my responsibility. And when my season of being here is over, I've been truly blessed to be here for 10 years. And I would like to finish my career here. I want to be able to hand off whoever the city council picks to be the next city manager to actually to be able to say, okay, we have a plan for sanitary sewer. We have a long-range plan for providing potable water to the community. We have a plan for road improvements. The challenge with road improvements is they're very expensive and voters don't like tax increases. And so you've got to do bond packages that continues the tax rate you're currently charging to generate the revenue. So in a fast-growing community, it's a little more difficult to maintain and to grow your road system as fast as people would like.
And quickly cause some frustrations with
Yes.
the community because they're like, these roads haven't been fixed. And
Yeah, it is. I mean, the city's responsible for close to 600 roads that we have to maintain, lane miles. Basically is even more than that. And so to actually widen a road from 2 lanes to 3 lanes without a bridge is around $7 million. To go from 2 lanes to 5 lanes, it could be around $9 to $10 million, closer to 10 if you have a bridge that you have to actually to expand to accommodate that. And that's real money. And there isn't that kind of money in the budget day to day to be able to do that. So you've got to borrow money, then you have to sell bonds. It's really to build a road from when you start thinking about it until you actually cut the ribbon can be anywhere from 3.5 to 5 years. And some folks struggle with understanding that each road can handle a certain number of cars. And if you're driving on a 2-lane road and you have no trouble getting through the stop sign when you pull up, all of a sudden now you're having to wait 3 or 4 times before you can get through the intersection. There's this belief that you need to widen the road. When reality is, data-driven decisions is how we proceed, is that you really don't need to start thinking about widening a road until you get between 8,000 and 10,000 cars a day. And you need to have a plan. So when that road gets to 15,000 to 18,000 cars a day, you need to be ready to start implementing that plan to widen that road. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of challenges with backups because your road can't handle it. And so we make a lot of data-driven decisions, and I try to educate the public on that every single time. We have a segment now called Drive-In BA, which is something we work on to talk about road improvements we completed, projects that are coming up, and the status of existing projects. Because actually, I'm hoping this segment, which has been very well received, it's helping folks understand the process that we utilize and literally how long it takes to actually build a road from the very beginning until we cut the ribbon.
Can I say I'm so glad that 91st Street was finally done? You
Yes.
know how many years I drove through that, trying to get to and from school or from work or whatever? Growing up,
It was
that was a big deal.
It was one of the major east-west routes within our community, and actually, there's work going on in Houston right now. Mm-hmm. We're actually doing the West Mile between Garnett and Olive, and that'll be done sometime around early December. The good thing is voters have approved, and the plans are already completed to do the East Mile from Olive to Aspen. And so what's going to happen is sometime in the next few months, we're actually going to bid that project and try to make it seamless to where as soon as we finish the West Mile, construction will start on the east mile. So there'll be a very smooth transition for the contractor. Maybe it'll be the same contractor. We have to go out to public bid. It would be a smooth transition because that's a major east-west driver too. And then we will have essentially taken care of the major thoroughfares going east and west.
Man, we've covered a lot today. This is very exciting. Before I have this next set of cards, which I'll introduce here in a moment, from the Diary of a CEO. Have you heard of him? Heard of that podcast?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Have you had his card deck?
Oh, I have not.
Okay, so his guests have actually written on cards questions to be able to ask like other guests and stuff like that. So I bought the card deck.
Okay.
And I've only seen part of the card deck, and it's random every one.
Okay.
So are you open to trying one?
Sure.
Okay. Before I go into this, is there anything that you have questions about or you want to cover with me?
Oh, no, not that I can think of. I mean, you've asked some great questions, and this is very informative to give folks an insight to what I do every day and the opportunities and challenges. And I look at everything we do as an opportunity in our community. Even the challenges are opportunities because it's all about getting things done and making sure that Broken Arrow is the best place in the country to live, work, and raise a family.
What do they say? You either wonder why it's done, how it's done, someone watches it done, or someone can actually get it done and do it. I'm also a doer myself.
Yes.
A lot of times we'll come up with an idea, and I'm like, okay, this is great. How are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? You know, what does it take to be able to get it done? Okay, like I like to figure out that kind of stuff and then watch it come to fruition. And you know, whatever headaches that come along the way, it's like, fine, we'll figure it out. But this is what we're going to do. We made the plan. We all committed. Sounds good. Let's go.
Well, I can tell you is that I look at things a little bit differently than a lot of folks, and I've had to educate and train my staff to understand how I think. And in many cases, I start with the end in mind, where most people are very linear and they start with the beginning and then they go forward. I look at things as that this is what I envision that we need for whether it's operations or it's for the community, and then I start working backwards to look at how we will get there. And most people go, well, what is the project? Let's define the project. How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? I start looking, okay, this is what we want to accomplish, and we start working back and to where all of a sudden now everybody starts to see the end with the end in mind. They can see that. And once they can see it, it's easier actually to start filling in the action steps and all the to-do list things that have to be done to accomplish whatever our goal is.
So glad you said that. Over the last couple of years, I've had some conversations where and some people I think will misunderstand me when I say this, but I discourage a lot of people from getting into business. I think that there's been ebb and flows throughout decades to where certain economic impacts will happen. People will go and try entrepreneurship or try a business and then figure out it's not for them, go back to employment or whatever. I think there's some sort of back and forth in that. Outside of that, I think definitely over millennials and Gen Z, being an entrepreneur is supposed to be really cool. You don't have to work for the man. You don't have a 9 to 5. You've got a 9 to 5 to 5 to 9, 9 to 1, sleep for a few hours and do it over again, right? Or whatever.
Yes.
And I think some people see that, oh, well, you know, they'll flex and say, oh, you know, we made $9 million last year, and look at him, he made $9 million or whatever it is, or $900,000. It's like, well, where's all that money? Like, I'm only getting paid $50,000 or $90,000 or whatever it is, you know. So I'll go out and start my own thing. So when I say that, like, I discourage people from getting into business without thinking of the exit strategy or with the end in mind. And I think that it's jumping in without being prepared first and knowing, like, you're going to end up at the end some way, shape, or form. Hopefully you don't pass away and leave a family behind. Did you think of life insurance? Have you thought about disability? Are you going to try to sell the business? And if you're going to sell it, you need to try to build it to be able to do that. You know, are you going to try to maybe, are you considering at one point in time maybe passing it off to somebody else? Or are you trying to maybe always own some sort of ownership, but then maybe have some majority shared by somebody else? So there's so many different avenues that I think should be considered first, you know, and kind of really knowing what people are getting into before they just dive right in.
I agree with you.
And I'll ask this before I pull out a card. And is it better to be prepared or just jump right in?
I think a little bit of both. And it really depends on exactly what you're doing. I mean, you know, as you know, my style of leadership has always been to be very participatory and democratic in, you know, working together with my team. What are the best options for addressing this problem or taking advantage of the opportunity? But there are times when I have to make the decisions. And you got to know when. So I believe it's the same thing. You know, there are times when you really need a plan. If you ask me what I would prefer, I would rather actually be prepared and do a plan. But I also understand in my position, having dealt with the things that I've dealt with, multiple floods, tornadoes, man-made disasters, you know, there are times when you have to react because you've got to save lives or you have to save property. And so to me, I think it really depends on the circumstances or whatever it is you're focusing on. But if I had a preference, I'd rather actually measure 3 times and then only have to cut once.
I'm on the same page. I agree.
But I will tell you this, though, you're talking about risk. I mean, being an entrepreneur, I have the utmost respect for entrepreneurs, and I try to do what I can to help because those folks are risk takers. And you nailed it when you talked about the challenges. Some people jump into business and they don't thoroughly think through everything when they begin to plan for starting their own business. And they look at someone who does that. And those people that are coming entrepreneurs that are being very successful, at some point they took a risk. And they should, and I believe they should receive the reward for the risk that they took. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I have the utmost respect for those that want to be an entrepreneur and try to get out and create something or actually provide a service in a community. And some of the most talented people in Broken Arrow are entrepreneurs that are a part of the chamber, for example, like yourself and others that are out there every single day trying to get it done, provide something of value that people can see and therefore pay for it. And so I have the utmost respect for you and those just like you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do as well. All right, you ready for this? Okay, here you go.
Just draw a question? Okay.
This is right off the top. And so what I do is I filter it through the back, just like a normal card deck sort of thing. If a couple of these, only a couple of them have been kind of obscure, where I'm like, really have no clue how to answer this, and we're just completely stuck. We can draw a new card. But
okay, it says, tell a specific story of someone in your life who helped make you into the person you are today, and what did they do? This is too easy.
Yeah, well, this is an easy one.
No, I mean, because I had no idea what the question was going to be, but I'm so happy I got this question because the answer to this question is very simple for me, is it was the township solicitor or city attorney in my first community. His name was John Harrington. And the lessons that he taught me today, that taught me back then, 37 years ago, I still use today. And he basically shared with me some tenets about things I needed to understand about the role and responsibilities of being a city manager and the roles and responsibilities I have to the city council. And he ingrained in those things to me that helped shape my career. The things that he stopped to do to help me understand how to work with the community, what to say to residents, how to glean what they were saying by what they don't say, how to understand to basically never put a council member in a situation, for example, that when they want to vote no, when they're in a situation where they might vote yes because all the considerations they have to look at. Understanding your council. He spent, I'm talking over a 5-year period, he spent a countless number of hours helping me and educating me on exactly the pomp and circumstance, the day-to-day of how to be a city manager. And I still use every single thing that he taught me to this day. And I could even share an example that I still use today of just how you have to be able to carry on conversations, but able to hear what's going on around you. I tell people that lesson, and he goes, "He made you do what?" And so I tell one of those lessons that I was taught all the time. So let me share it with you.
Yes.
Okay. So John Harrington told me that in politics, you need to be able to a room and have a conversation with someone, but also hear every single thing that's going on around you, because there may be something that is said that is going to help you address a situation, overcome an obstacle, or something that's going to help you be proactive or help you avoid something that could turn in from a molehill into a mountain. And he goes, it's not a technique everyone could do. And so every Friday for probably well over a year, except minus vacations and a few other conflicts, maybe even 2 years, he and the mayor and I would go to this place called the Medport Diner. And I was in New Jersey at the time, in the town I was in. We would go there, and he would sit at a table just out of arm's reach, like you would in any restaurant. And the mayor and I would have a conversation about what's going on in the city, and I would update her on things. And he would read a story from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he would usually pick a story that had data or numbers in it and so forth. And he would read that story with a normal voice, and when he was finished, I had to be able to recite to him that entire story in some facet, what numbers he basically mentioned, what the story was about.
While carrying a conversation.
While I'm having a conversation with the mayor. And he taught me how to be able to listen to multiple conversations at the same time showing respect to the person that I'm speaking with.
You can't show you're disengaged.
No, you cannot. You can't go turn your head and like listen to this. You have to have the ability to basically, you just can't nod your head. You have to be able to actually ask questions and engage with this person at the same time that you're listening. And I honed that skill. Now, as I gotten older and my hearing is not as good as it was, many, many years ago, I'm not real good at. Plus, you have ambient noise from when you're in a room.
Especially at galas or fundraisers or
exactly.
gatherings. Yeah.
But he taught me the importance of that, and I can't count the number of times that I heard something that I shared with the governing body or a staff member that we were end up able to handle the situation that we might not have known if I hadn't heard that conversation. And so it was something that I tell people that I had to do that, and they're kind of blown away that he would take that kind of time. And believe me, it went on for the longest time to where he said, this is going to help you to be able to listen to what's going on around you. And it also helped me to focus when I'm having conversations with the person I'm talking to and learn that I need to listen more. And that's why most of the time as a leader, when I'm with my leadership team, I usually say, here's why we're at the meeting, go. And why I want to meet, and then everybody talks, and I'm usually at that point, I usually don't talk until everyone has spoken, and it's because I learned the importance of listening and understanding and hearing, not just hearing people, but listening to what they're saying and gleaning from them what they're saying, why they're saying it, be able to ask questions, finding out if there's a hard question they want to ask but won't ask, because being the city manager, sometimes it's hard for people to say something because of that relationship. But from those lessons I learned from him about listening, I became a very, very good listener, which has really helped me over my career. So that's the person that's helped me the most.
It's funny that you say that. I think I can somewhat relate on that. I think my wife or just some other people too. They're like, you're not listening, are you? And I'll recite what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll be zoned in on whatever it is. It's a conversation. Maybe I'm reading something or working on a task or whatever it is. And then they'll have a conversation between them too. And they'll be like, he's not even paying attention. I'm like, yeah, I've been listening the whole time. Like, you guys are talking about X, Y, Z. You guys are doing this next, and
it's a skill.
I think I'm not listening. And is that somewhat of selective hearing to be able to decide in your mind on who and where my hearing is and my attention is kind of paid to, and being able to somehow work your brain in a way to be able to tune something out or not? Right?
Well, to me, I've learned that information is the most valuable commodity there is. How to get it, what to do with it. Where do you get information? You get information from many different sources, and a lot of it is from communicating with those that are around you. And how you use that information is extremely important. That's why I call it information a commodity. And knowing what's going on, knowing how residents feel about a particular issue in the community. That's why we've done so many surveys the last year and a half, is to understand what the community thinks about certain things that may be on the bond package next April. You have to ask questions, and you have to listen to what the citizens are saying. Now, sometimes residents don't think you're listening because you're not doing exactly what they wanted, but in reality, it's a really big picture about which roads get taken care of, how tax dollars, sales tax, utility revenues, how those get spent on the projects that council determined have the utmost priority, and it's a really big picture. So, to me, my mentor taught me many things, but probably the most important was developing the listening skills, not just when I'm in a room around other people, but really listening to whoever it is that I'm talking to and making sure that they have my full attention. And then secondly is that I'm really listening and trying to fully understand what they're trying to share with me.
My person, I've got two different splits. One is my grandpa. When he passed away in 2014, 14. Yeah, actually. Yeah, 2012. No, hold on. 2009. Oh, my God. Yeah, 2009. I was a freshman in high school. And he taught me a lot about business. And I was little. All the way up to when I was a freshman. And before he passed away, like, he ran some lumber yards. And he was an entrepreneur himself. He had a business that he wound up passing on to me. Patent expired, and I wound up closing down the business years later. But he taught me some stuff about business and relationships and how to like do sales orders and different kind of stuff like that on the sales side. And then my mother's the other one. That sounds a little cheesy, but she taught me a lot about finance and really kind of helped keep my moral compass on track along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not let money lead you or make your decisions, solely, right? So, and be wise in where you spend your money. And
it's very important.
Taxes work and all that kind of stuff. So,
if I had to pick somebody contemporary, if you were to ask me somebody in the last 4 years, without a question, it'd be my wife, Kathleen, Dr. Kathleen Spurgeon, mm-hmm. because what Kathleen, she's taught me many lessons, and I'm having an incredible life partner. She helped me understand the importance of empathy, and she is amazing at the way that she communicates with people and basically really develops a relationship with everyone that she communicates and making sure that they have her full attention and that she is the most important person in the world, whoever she's talking to, and adding that to that skill. But that was, I've learned so much from her about my faith and my relationship with Jesus, my relationship with her, my relationship with the community. But the way that she is so empathetic and the way that she loves other people and how that's kind of really just ingratiated into myself makes me want to be more like her. Yeah. And in that, so there's so many people. I mean, I could mention my council members in a contemporary. I've had some amazing council members, especially in Broken Arrow. I mean, I've had the privilege of working with Deborah Wimpy for nearly 10 years now, and no one has a bigger servant's heart. There's been other council members, Johnny Parks, he's Mr. Broken Arrow. There's a handful of people, as you know, I've mentioned, that are Mr. Broken Arrow, well-known throughout Broken Arrow, what he believes and his work ethic and his true commitment to this community are noteworthy. Lisa Ford, you won't find a harder working individual in Broken Arrow in terms of serving the citizens. She's right up there. Former State Senator Christy Gillespie, Justin Green. The way he serves the community. I mean, I could go on. David Pickle he's our newest council member, but Broken Arrow is very fortunate, kind of bringing this people that influence my life every single day. The governing body does, and we have a partnership, and that's why I wanted to mention all of them and some others that have been on the council. It's been a blessing because they shape and mold my life every single day, because it's my responsibility to implement the direction and policies that they pass and would like to see to keep Broken Arrow great. And I'm very blessed to be able to work for them.
Is there any reason why someone would need to get in touch with you, or reach out, or have a conversation about whatever it may be?
Well, I talk to residents almost on everyday basis in some way. It's normally by email today. I mean, most people communicate by email. I still make a lot of phone calls to residents. I made a call to a resident this afternoon, who was at the council meeting last night. But there's many reasons why people would call me. Obviously, I get calls every now and then about someone that's unhappy with the decision we made about how we provided them a service or didn't provide that service. My philosophy internally is one of let's get to yes. And I have developed, with the assistance of Kenny Schwab, Assistant City Manager over operations, and Norm Stevens, and both of them, of administration, as well as all the other directors, is that we have a culture of getting to yes. Our goal is to try to help every single citizen who reaches out to us, albeit through the app on reporting something or a phone call, an email, comes to council, try to get to yes, whether it's 100% yes or 50% yes, to help the residents improve their quality of life. Because when they contact us, in many cases, that's the biggest problem they have going on. And so our responsibility is to match their effort in terms of helping them. And so I get calls every now from folks that are not happy about a decision that we made. I also get folks calling me, asking me, or emailing me who do I contact with regard to getting this address? I've had a couple of those today, for example. I get called with residents that have questions about utility rates, the changes we made in utility rates, bond packages. And so it's a whole from A to Z. And, a lot of times my staff will handle some of those questions because really most citizens just want an answer to their question. But if they want to speak to me, then I'll usually stop and make a time during the day or the next day at the latest and do my best to call them back and try to answer their questions. And so even though we're a larger town, I refuse to actually not engage with the citizens.
Gatekeep.
And no, I don't do that. I've got certain policies I follow. If you want to have a meeting, because my schedule is usually it's made up about 90 days out because of all the meetings and responsibilities I have. It's usually pretty booked up. But for the most part, I try to meet with residents, and I usually have Friday afternoons or late Friday mornings. I reserve to go out and look at things that residents tell me about, because it's towards the end of the week, and I can go out and see if there's an issue in their neighborhood. Have a meeting with some residents, had several of those in the last couple of months. So really, I couldn't be specific because there's so many opportunities. And I encourage residents to send me emails. I get Facebook messages from folks asking me questions or how to handle certain things because they may not have my email address, but we're Facebook friends. And so it is really from the time I get up until the time, I close my eyes, my focus, unless it's on my wife or my grandkids or my children or playing slow pitch softball, it's focused on trying to continue to make Broken Arrow the best we can be.
I love that passion. And thank you so much for
Sure.
coming on and having some of these conversations with me. And as always, it's a pleasure to see you, especially out in the community, but in more of an intimate setting. It's cool to hear from you directly and just kind of explore some of these conversations. A couple of them, I think we went a little off topic per se, not off topic, but not exactly what we had planned.
Hey, it's your show.
Yeah.
It's your show, and I wanted to try to let folks have a little bit of an insight about me and what's important to me and my faith, my family, and doing what's best for Broken Arrow, which is not always going to be a popular decision. But, I think leaders are like eagles. You don't find them flocking together. In the end, when you have to make decisions, you have to be able to stand true to your convictions, which means sometimes you may be standing there by yourself, but to be able to know then at the end of the day that who you're accountable to, and that you felt like you made a decision that was best for the city, best for the residents, best for the organization, and sometimes that requires quite a bit of solitude.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you again, and
my pleasure.
I know we're getting close on time, so I want to make sure you get out probably into your next meeting before the complete end of the day.
Well, actually, I do my radio show for the KRMG. For those that may not know, every Tuesday, and have been for about 3.5 years now, on KRMG on Tuesday at 5:05. I've been blessed to talk to Skylar Cooper about some things that are going on in Broken Arrow. And so I usually spend about 20 minutes just kind of going over what he may ask. And so I'll be heading back to the office and working for a couple of more hours to catch up on what's happening today, but also talk about all things Broken Arrow.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you.
Appreciate you, my friend.